Ashley, your scrapping nerd, and I'm back today with a layout for Scraplift Crafternoon, and it's where a bunch of my crafty peeps and I get together and we scraplift an amazing layout from an amazing creator. And today we are scraplifting Kristen, and you saw her video at the, her layout at the top of the video. And it's a fun one. She had 3 photos, but I'm only going to have 2. And I pulled in my 49 and Market Wonderlust Explorer collection. And so I have the laser cut elements, the washi tape strips, the epoxy stickers, and the die cut elements. And then I pulled in a few papers. I did pull in the cut apart 12 by 12 and I forgot about it. So I didn't use that at all. And then I pulled in my Distress Inks in Vintage Photo and Walnut Stain. And so I will use mostly Walnut Stain, and I will ink everything on this page. And you can see where I got my inspiration from. Even though I don't have the 3 photos, I am going to have all my photos in the center of the layout. As well as on her layout, it had a bunch of circles, and they kind of reminded me like coffee stains. And I thought, well, that would be cute. To do like a coffee layout and have like a, not coffee stains, but you know how like when you move your cup, you might have coffee ring. That's the word, coffee ring. But I decided to do, because I really love this Wonderlust Explorer collection. It's one of my favorites. And so I pulled in my Scrap-A-Sketch stencil, the circles, and then I also pulled in the Tim Holtz stencil. And it's funny, the circles here for the Scrap-A-Sketch, I don't think I've ever used the stencil as a whole. I only ever use it for just like doing circles here and there. And it's one of my favorites. Also, I want to apologize for the bell that you hear in the background. It's on my puppy's collar, and she runs around. She's crazy. But and then I went through and I put circles all around my layout, like Kristen's layout had, kind of all scattered around. And then I will take my Vintage Photo and use this Tim Holtz stencil that's kind of like diamonds, and just go over each of the circles. And I really like how that looks. In the inspiration layout, it looked like it had mixed media over the whole entire layout, and that's why I picked this paper as my page for the background, because I liked how busy it was and it has like the different elements. And since I was putting the pictures in the center, it has kind of this open spot that I thought was perfect for it. And then I just decided to do some mixed media on the top. And I really like how this turned out. And like I said, I really just love my circle stencil from Scrap-A-Sketch. And if you've been on my channel, you know I use it a lot. But I am scrapbooking these 2 pictures of my husband, and it's when we were in Mazatlan, and because we went on the cruise, and we docked in Mazatlan. And so we were watching these cliff divers. And so my husband's sitting on the edge watching them jump off this huge cliff into the ocean, which I don't feel like it was very deep, but it probably was, because it would have to be, because they dive into it. But either way, I couldn't pick which photo of my husband that I liked the best, so I decided to use both of them. And it's funny because one of them he's facing to the left and the other one he's facing to the right, so I had to make sure that the pictures were facing off the page so that he's not like staring into himself. I thought that would be weird if the pictures showed him like basically looking at himself. So that was funny. But I decided that I wanted to do a block for my photo mat instead of doing individual photos. And I chose the same pattern that you can see in the background of the main paper, the kind of, it's like starburst pattern. So I decided to use the same pattern to pull it into as my block, my photo block. And so then I had thought I was going to put them all like on the paper and have it all the way around, have an edge. But I thought, since this is kind of haphazard and there's a lot of layers in the background, like in the paper itself, that I would use just some scrap craft paper that I had and actually mat each photo separately, and then have that hang off of the sides of that block that I cut that matches the paper. And I just thought that that would look really nice and kind of add some interest to it, and it wasn't just a block of paper with the photos on it. And so I like how that turned out. And then of course you will see I will use walnut stain on everything. So I inked the edges of my photo mats, and then I inked the edges of the photo block. And I really thought it was all I could do to not distress it. I really thought about distressing that piece that was behind the photos, but I thought, no, I'm always distressing things. So let's just distress, quote unquote, with ink and not distress. But it was really hard because I kept thinking I should distress that paper, but I didn't. I left it how it was. And so I wanted to make sure that my photos had enough room for this piece of ephemera from the laser cut elements that I really liked. It's like a compass, and that has a doily, and there's some floral in it. And so I wanted to make sure that that was mostly in the middle of the two photos, but the right side of that element kind of stuck out more, and then the left side just kind of cut off, like it would be perfect to put on the edge of the paper, but I really wanted it in the middle. And so I stuck it to the photo on the right because there was more room from like negative space in the photo. And so I stuck it to that photo so that I could, and where I wanted that photo, and then I could get a good spacing with the other photo so that that element was in the middle. And then because it did that where it like cut off on the left side, then I just started to build on top with my cluster. And I use this Explore, and these are from the die cut elements, this word Explore, and then the little globe I just kind of stuck on there so you wouldn't know that it just kind of cut off on that side. And then I pulled in a camera, and I don't know if I cut this part out, but I will actually put the camera up on some foam just to add some interest to the photo cluster so it wasn't so flat. And then the funny thing is I put that washi tape on the back because I had wanted to see it, and I forgot all about it. And as I built my cluster, I just kind of covered that. You can sort of see it behind the top of that flower that's on the top of that element, but I should have probably put it up just a little bit higher so you could see more of it. But what are you going to do? I just start adding stuff and then things get covered up. It's crazy. But so I pulled in, there was a bunch of frames, and so I decided that I wanted to do kind of a frame cluster on top of the photos, just again to add some layers. And I rarely use frames as frames. I always tend to do this where I kind of just make little clusters with the frames, or I'll like cut half of it off and I'll put it around the picture. So like this one I cut in half, and I'll put this piece up at the top of this photo, and then I'll put the other piece on the right side of the right photo. And so I do that a lot, but I don't know when the last time is that I actually used a frame as a frame. So maybe I need to do that, just to do something different, because like I said, it's usually always these frame clusters that I do. And I inked every single frame on the outside and the inside of the frame while I was doing it. And then after I did that, I pulled in this one, and it has a tab on the side, but I'm like, oh, I need to balance out my little cluster and have something more also on the right. And so this one was fun. And then I was like, well, I know I can find something to stick on that little tab. And I had to cut the bottom left of that frame because I had already stuck down the photo, which is fine because then I will use the bottom left of that frame down by the Explore word in that element, and that just kind of brings kind of frame parts down, and you won't notice that it's cut off because it's all, each end is just behind the laser cut elements. And like I said, I do that all the time. But make sure that you check out the description box and that you go visit Kristen's social media links and see all the amazing things that she does and give her some love. And then as well as visit all of my Scraplift Crafternoon peeps that hop along, and they have taken Kristen's layout and scrap lifted it and see how they interpreted her layout. I want to say thank you to everyone who has liked and subscribed to my channel. I really appreciate it. And if I've done something that you like, go ahead and hit those buttons below. I'd love to have you over here. And I always laugh because I'm just keep adding and adding and adding to my layouts, and I like them in the end, but you know, I don't know if I'm capable of doing a simple layout. Maybe that's something I should try, where it's just like I pull my stuff out and I'm only allowed to use that. I'm not allowed to look at anything else. 3 elements, put it on the page and go. But yeah, I don't see that happening because I just keep adding and adding. And I pulled in those epoxy elements, and that's what I put on that little tab. It says fun times. And then I just put some little epoxy dots around, and there's a geotag. But that's going to be the layout, guys. Like I said, thanks, and I hope everyone has a great day. Bye.